In this video I'm going to show you how to change yarn while you're knitting. The first method I want to show you is using the same color, and it's just going from one ball to the other. So I've got this one where it ended, and I'm going to take a new one off the new ball, and I'm going to take it, and the end of the new ball I'm going to hold to the back of my work and knit the old string and the new string together. You'll just do it for 3 stitches. So you just hold both of them. I hold the new string, I just hold it kind of tight so it doesn't move too much, and then I've just got the 2 wrapped around my fingers together. And you just knit like normal but with 2 strings and just do 3 stitches. You can do this anywhere in the work, but you would want ideally to do it at the edge or where there's going to be a seam. And then when you've got your 3 stitches knit, you drop your old ball string, and then you just continue to knit with your new string, and it'll look a little different, but it won't be too noticeable. Now I'm on the next row of that, and you can see here where the 2 strings are from the new string, and this is the old string that was left over. I've just purled my way back through since I've been doing stockinette stitch, and I'm almost to those 3 stitches. And when you get to these 3 stitches, you can see that they're a little bit bulkier than your normal stitches, but you're just going to go through and grab both of the strings that are there and just knit. See if there's a good one where you can see both. And you can just pull that one a little tighter if it gets loose. And you can kind of see that they're a little bigger. I'm going to knit some more and come back and show you what it looks like and see if we can see it. I've gone a couple, I don't know, 4 rows maybe since I did that I added that new ball, and they're right here. They're just a little bit bigger. It's not too much of a difference, so that it's not extremely noticeable or anything, but there they are, just a little bit bigger. And for the next kind of change, you're going to need I use a weird needle, but you'll need a needle, and I'm going to use this one. I don't know, it's my favorite needle. And what you'll do is, I've got my old ball right here, putting it through the needle. And what you're going to end up doing is wrapping them onto each other and sewing, so it'll look like this when you're done. So I always just go ahead and kind of get it where I want it, and then I just go in and kind of do a snake-like pattern through the yarn so that it's got bumps on top and bottom, and go as many as you feel comfortable with. And I just pull my yarn through. And that's what it'll look like on one side. Then you'll go and do the same thing with your new yarn. So I've got my new yarn threaded through the needle, and I'm just going to do the same thing. I've got it about where I want it to be, so I'm going to be a little more careful with this one. So I'm going to go in real close to where the yarn is wrapped, and I'm just going to do the same thing, just doing, I guess, up and over maybe, so that there's a bump on the top and a bump on the bottom. And I'll pull it through. And pull my needle out. And then there's your new yarn. And there are strings hanging out, which I always go through and cut those after I've got it knitted on. So I'm just going to leave those, and then you would just knit like you normally would. You just want to be a little careful that you don't get these too tight so they're not bunchy when you knit with them. So I'm going to knit until I've got nothing but new yarn on there, the new ball, and then I'll come back and show you what it looks like. So here it is with all those yarn, or all that knitted in, and on the back you've got two little strings hanging out, which you can just go ahead and, I always just snip them off kind of close, or you can weave them in if you'd like. And on this one, I would weave in both of these a little bit on the first yarn change. I'd definitely weave at least this one in for sure, but if you don't feel like it, you can just snip this one off. And it leaves more stitches this way that are bulky, so it might be a little more noticeable. But if you don't want to take the chance of, I don't know, having these three at the end or whatever, there's the two different methods I know for changing it that way. And then the third method I know is just for animal fiber yarns like wool, you know, alpaca, stuff like that. I have some lace weights here. They're the only ones I have that are wool. And what you'll do is, I have two different colors just so you can see the difference. You wanna, these are 2-ply, so you wanna separate the 2 plies on each side. I always just stick a needle in there and then in between them and pull it up. Sometimes it takes a while. And this is called a spit splice. And you will actually use your own spit. Water doesn't work because there's proteins in your spit that help bind the fibers together. You're basically felting the 2 yarns together. So you're going to use your spit, which has proteins in it, which when you rub them, you'll rub them together and it creates a friction so that they'll bind together better. So I've got my two yarns pulled apart, and you're going to lick your palm. I usually put quite a bit on there, and then I put one down, and then I cross them a little bit like that, and then I always lick my other palm too, so there's a good amount of proteins. And then you just literally rub them together till you feel the heat. I always do it a couple times, and then you have your yarn felted together. It looks a little funky, but when you're knitting with it, especially with this lace yarn, you won't really see the difference. There won't be hardly any bulk like the other two I showed you. And then when it dries, it'll be a little stiffer, but when after you wash your piece and block it, it'll be just as strong as any other normal thread. And then there you go, there's the little piece, and I mean, I'm pulling on it pretty good, and it's not really coming apart. And those are my 3 different yarn changes for same color yarn, but on this one, when I did it with the lace stuff, it was usually 2 strands knitted together, and I usually only changed when it was changing colors, and it was only 1 yarn at a time, so it didn't matter if I just used the 2 different colors. But I'm sure if you're doing it if you want to change colors, try to do it at the end, near the end, so that the color change in the two yarns is at the end of your work, preferably not in the middle. You don't usually change colors in the middle, but there you go. Hope it helped.